Good morning, everybody. This is Mike in San Francisco. Apologies joining late. I'm in the office, so just getting off my bike and into the hospital. But good morning. As is our custom, we'll start 5 minutes past the start time, so leaving 3 more minutes for people to join. By all means, just text me if you're having any issues with the audio. I want to make sure that we can hear the speakers loud and clear. And if you're not planning on speaking, then kindly place yourselves on mute. Thank you, guys. Okay, good morning again. Seems like maybe people cannot hear me. Can you hear me? If you cannot, then I will adjust my audio settings.
I can hear you, Mike.
Great, thanks, Eric. Nice to have you on the call. Great. Sounds like others can too, which is fantastic. Welcome again. We'll get started, and in a second, I'll hand over the meeting coordination and chairing to my colleague Cheyenne. Great to have you all here on the call today. And as a reminder, if you're not presenting, then we just kindly ask that you put yourselves on mute. So one last request, as is our custom, I'm going to record this webinar, and so if anybody has any concerns about that, then please chat me, let me know in the chat box. But over to you, Cheyenne. If you're able to hear, the mic is yours, so to speak.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Lana.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's get started. To begin with, we're gonna have Jess present some updates on the website and evaluation, and then we'll hear from KNUST and Ibadan on their experiences so far. So next slide. So Jess?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for providing an opportunity to give updates on our website and on our evaluation. I just wanted to provide some feedback on updates that we've created based on your responses. So what we heard last week is that paper-based tools that are available on the website should be available by module, and that it's cumbersome to download an entire document and have to sort through the modules that each of the partners will be using. So if you navigate to the website, under paper-based tools, there's now a zip file that has all of the required modules together, which include a cover page, the consent form, the identifiers form, and then module 1, 3, 4, and 17 all together. And then the other modules, the optional modules, as separate files. So I hope that that is easier for you all to use, and please do not hesitate to let me know if you have any issues with accessing these documents. Secondly, following the post-test, we've heard that learners are eager to have access to their scores, an answer key, and a certificate of completion. So I have an update on that to share with you. Before I do so, I just wanted to say that we continue to hear of some issues in using the pre and the post test, some issues with sign up, that it taking longer than expected. Please continue to share. We continue to innovate. Our intention is to reduce the burden on your teams. I'm encouraged that over 600 students have used the program successfully on the pretest, which indicates that we are able to collect, insightful information that we hope will be useful for each of our partners as well as for our donors. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this works for your teams, and we're mindful of adjusting the system accordingly. So please move to the next slide. Just as I mentioned, the paper tools are now on the website under paper-based tools. You'll see a zip file, and you can move to the next slide, Shan. And under evaluation results, this isn't live yet. This is a mock-up that should be available, I believe, at the end of this week. I'm just checking with our programmers. This is the demo page. So essentially what will happen after a student finishes their post-test, they will automatically be redirected to a results page. And the results page, this is very small text, so I'll just kind of walk you through it. But has the questions, the knowledge-based questions by module, and then it shows on the pre-test and the post-test which questions they got correct and incorrect. And then there is an opportunity to download an answer key. And that's important in case the learner wants to go back and see what questions that they got wrong. And again, I just want to emphasize, this is only after the post-test. We obviously don't want students to have answers and a sense of what they got right or wrong at the pre-test, as that would influence the post-test. One other thing that I imagine will be a question that will come up from you all is, how do students, learners who have taken the tests already but weren't redirected to this page have access? We're working on a system where we'll actually send out a blast to the email address of all learners that includes the link or a guide back to this page where they'll be able to see their results and download the answer key. And also on this page, there is another button that allows them to download a certificate of completion. So if you go to the next page, I used our lovely host Cheyenne as an example. We signed in using her user ID, and this was the certificate that was auto-generated. I will note, for those that may have an aesthetic eye and concern with the font size as I have, the student name will be minimized and the university name will be increased so that there is a better balance between the font. So that the improvements are underway there. But again, this is something, the certificate will also be emailed to the student's address automatically. And so it won't be contingent on them being able to download a PDF if they're, working on a computer that's not their own, et cetera. It will be a part of their records after they complete the post-test. So you can go to the next slide. Just some quick evaluation updates. We have completed the first draft of the facilitator evaluation, and we're going to use, based on your feedback and on the time that it's taking for students to log in via the website, we're going to be using a different platform. It will still live on the website, but it will just require a generic facilitator login to the website, and then they will just go to a link. So it won't require sign up, and it will hopefully cut down a significant amount of time for facilitators to interface with this program. And so we'll have an update on that in the next webinar. The dashboard is actually coming along quite nicely. It has capacity for institutions to see aggregate data as well as their school-specific data, and that will be available in the next 2 weeks. And a monitoring report. This is a new update that we are hoping to first discuss with our TWG and then roll it out to our partners. But what we are doing, since the dashboard has nice visuals, but it doesn't have some of the analyses that we know partners will want to have in addition to the raw data set. We're working on a monitoring report that essentially will be available upon request or on a weekly basis, depending on preference of partners, that kind of breaks down the basic descriptive statistics and improvement scores broken down by training level, by gender, by health profession category, some other specifics that will be important for each institution to have, these kind of raw numbers as they evaluate their own program. So more updates on this. It's something that our evaluation team is working on. And last but not least, we are considering a webinar. We know that we're headed into the holiday season and schools will kind of close for the holidays, kind of staggering in the middle of December. So if you wouldn't mind just signaling in your chat box if you would be available in 2 weeks' time at our regularly scheduled webinar. If most people are not available, what I'm going to do is record a webinar and post it on the website that has these updates on facilitator evaluation dashboard and monitoring reports, so it can be accessed at your leisure and we can review and have updates in early 2020. Just want to maximize the end of this very busy year with all of you and hoping to get that information to you in a timely manner. And that's it, unless maybe we can take questions briefly, or I don't want to eat into the time of our esteemed guests.
Thanks, Jess. We can see if there's questions that come through. And thanks for everyone who's starting to say whether they'll be available. We'll make the decision by the end of the webinar and announce that.
Thank you.
So we can move on to our first partner update. And so we have Professor David Owale from University of Ibadan. Dr. David, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. Thank you.
Wonderful. We hear you. I will turn it over to you, and thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, Georgina wrote to you. She's attending a meeting in Abuja on our behalf. She did this on behalf of the group from Ibadan and actually Nigeria. Where's the next slide? Okay,
yeah, and Mike will move the slides for you, so just let him know whenever you want to move on.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you, Mike. So this is a summary of what we've done so far. How did we prepare? Yeah, we had a series of meetings, as you know. Our program at the University of Ibadan, we presented or proposed to have it as a consortium of the MEPI group. There are 6 universities in the MEPI, and we thought it would be helpful to actually work and collaborate with our colleagues from the other university, so that the concept we could expand very quickly to institutions. It's a very large country, and having this will help us to get the concept across quickly. So we had a number of meetings by Zoom, and we discussed with the partners. We assigned appointed coordinators. We started with review the overview of the STREP project. And after understanding with also the electronic version of summary of our proposal to them, including what they submitted and where we were writing the application. And they requested for nomination of 2 individuals per site, which we did. And also, in addition to the 3 of our colleagues that attended the Lagos meeting from Ibadan, we had additional person from pharmacy and well, as far as the laboratory. And then we planned training. Initially in our proposal, we had thought it was going to be in Ibadan, but because of the challenge of travel now on Lagos-Ibadan Road, we got approval to have it in Lagos. And so the meeting held on the 31st of October to the 1st of November. Next slide, please, Mike. Next slide. Okay, thank you. Oh, no, can we go back? Sorry, we've gone one more ahead. Okay, the next one. I hope it's okay. Thank you. So we met twice. We review all the, that's the Badr group now. We met in preparation for the TOT. This was a first level TOT. We call this the country level TOT now, not at the institutional level. So we reviewed the modules. We decided on which of the modules to be used for the training. And this included the mandatory ones. We then assigned to the facilitators, the three of them that attended the training in Lagos. That's Ajayi, Odaibo, and Okanlawon. They attended, and then we gave we also produced copies of the modules and prepare binders for each, complete the 017 module. Each person had this. Next slide, please, Mike. Okay, thank you. So we had a 2-day training workshop. We started with overview and synopsis of the Stripe, and we made presentation and discussion of each of the modules to those that we had previously assigned, that they are studied. And then we also assigned one of the facilitators to serve like, noting certain specific point in relation to the HIV program and the students' uptake kind of thing to note in preparation for what we are likely to face when we are getting to the student level training. And then we got the three of them that attended Lagos training led in the first day the training. We went through the modules and discussed generally. Whoever presented the module also led the discussion, and with some observations that everyone contributed to. So the module, the remaining modules were assigned to colleagues from the other universities, those that we took on day 2. So they had the night to prepare, review, and based on what they learned from those that presented in the first day, we believe they then we are giving assignment to do the second day. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide, please. Okay. So on that second day, they led each of and we also assigned the modules to relate deliberately to the area of specialization of the individuals that presented, even those that presented in the first day. May not be exactly, but as close as possible, so that their background and also the experience in the HIV program will also we use the opportunity in the discussion. And then on the first, as you recall, the webinar that day, the 3 modules, the last 3 modules were presented. So we actually paused or stopped for a while and connected directly. So all of us, the 16 of us, participated in the webinar that day, and that we used the opportunity. So we really took had lots more than we have previously planned to go through. It was a good opportunity because we listened directly to those that presented the modules 15, 16, and 17. And then we now discussed this after the webinar that day. The next slide, Mike. So this is the breakdown. Those to the medical and dental were 6, the nursing 4, lab science 3, pharmacy 2, And then we had at MIE, you will recall that we proposed to have an independent, apart from the evaluation, the pre and post, as part of the program. We also plan to have APIN, AIDS Prevention Initiative. It's an agency, an international agency that's been working on HIV in the country for close to 20 years now. So we think we want to leverage on their experience, what they look for, what they expect in terms of looking at following up for us, looking at the program later. So they've nominated one person from their MIE team and we invited, he was part of this training of trainer training workshops, excuse me. Thank you. The next slide, Mike. Hello. Next, okay, thank you. So what went well? The experience, as I alluded earlier, really we experience of the individuals who are invited or who are nominated from each of the institutions really helped because they were able to relate what the discussion to what the actual practical experience in the program in their different hospitals and institutions. Then the multidisciplinary nature of the participants, at this level of the country level training of the among the 6 universities also helped because, nurses were able to really relate from the nursing care, the medical doctors, laboratory, we could really learn from this, and we're already looking at, looking at the opportunity of this multidisciplinary to bring it to the interprofessional training for the students and the intern which is really the final goal of preparing this team to be able to do. The leadership, the support also, arising from our previous work in the MEPI, it was not difficult for us at all, very simple, as we presented this as a follow-up to our previous work. We got approval and the nomination of the people, the individual that's good. Also, the fact that the modules, the entire module were printed, it made referencing easier and quicker. We could relate, people can, make reference to pages and we can discuss it. Then we also found that actually many other sides, the interest is just so overwhelming and the passion for the interprofessional there, it's really great, very, very impressive. The people sat together, they came together, they discussed this same issue from different angles, and that also, the Stripe concept also was very motivational for the facilitators. Next. So the challenges actually a major challenge, and that's what's a little delay that we hopefully are working really hard to overcome within this month now. But we want to conclude the training. They are ready at the institutional level, but it took some time before we got the advance, the funding. So we had to actually start waiting for that fund to come, from departmental and the university. Reimbursement system is not a system that we are very used to at the institutional level, due to grant really money be available before work start. But now that the fund is available, we've retired this first one. So we are getting the institution. Each of the sites have gone to the level of the nomination of those that will be facilitators. They've gone through that, and so we're just waiting to have date for the training, and that will be next. So that was just the delay, which has been really overcome in this center. So next slide, please. Okay, these are some pictures of the group, entire group at the center, cross-section of participants in the workshop, at the different snapshots is found in the different wings of the slides. The next one is, well, so you can see the left corner of this, the cross section. So this is one very interesting, we actually put this in one of our reports. If you look at this quote, read with me. One of the participants, I think coming from the pharmacy background, he said the interprofessional concept of Strive HIV projects has immense value. It fosters interprofessional collaboration and emphasizes the perception, especially in Nigeria, that only one of the profession can do it all in the HIV care. The approach taken by Strive HIV projects is evaluating this collaboration, while these professionals are still in training, will most likely produce lifelong collaboration. That's the key word, lifelong collaboration that will positively impact HIV care. The approach places the patient at the center of all activities relating to HIV care, treatment, and support. As a result, I strongly believe that the scarce resources and other inputs being poured into the fight against HIV will likely produce the desired result should this approach be adopted. We already adopted the approach, and we make sure it's implemented very effectively. The next slide, please. Next one, Mike. Okay, these are other from some of our colleagues, and rounding up actually that the second day of the workshop. One says this approach will enhance or improve the holistic management of patients with HIV and reduce morbidity and mortality. The other, another person, interprofessional training concept, we build a good relationship and thus create harmony among the health team. That's the one, harmony, that's it. And then the relationship build, improve the overall patient care and management. These are comments from these colleagues from the other institution, including also from Ibadan, that it was after the first exposure. So we are waiting, and we've, like as I said earlier, we are set to train facilitators at the institutional level now, and then we go to the level of the students training and then the intern. Next, Mike, I think it's the next slide.
Thanks so much, Dr. David.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Really enjoyed learning about your TOT approach. And I was really excited to hear that you were able to seize the opportunity and use the webinar in modules 15 and 16 and 17. That was really rewarding to hear. And I think it's a good reminder that as people continue to do TOTs, they can pull up those recordings and get a refresher and replay them. And I think a lot of them are actually really short, where you could learn about the modules in about 10 to 15 minutes. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
And then that first quote, I got chills about the pharmacist's response to the training. And I think it not only emphasized how interprofessional the training is, but that it's person or patient-centered, which
yes.
we do talk about, and it comes out through all the modules, but we don't often talk about our modules and our training being person-centered as much as we emphasize interprofessional nature. So thank you for bringing that back up as well.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we can move on to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And we have Dr. Edward Desa and Dr. Veronica Duzamiku. And then also as a reminder to everyone listening, if you have any questions for our presenters, just put them into the chat box and we will go over them at the end. Okay, over to KNUS.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm here with Veronica, this Edward. We are going to share our experiences. Shall we go to the next slide, please? So that's our outline. Next slide. Yeah, so the preparation for the program, we secured funds from the College of Health Sciences, KNUST, held a series of meetings These involve visiting our partner institutions. We had two main components to this, and that was the two components was our feasibility visits. Our feasibility visits, we visited all the partner institutions, and then they then came to KNUST for a benchmark visit. And after this, in the process of this, we reviewed all the modules that were sent by Stripe, all the core modules, and then the optional modules. And among the optional modules, we selected what we wanted to do, which were modules 2, 6, 9, and then 12. And put this into a manual form and printed the manuals for both the facilitators and then the learners. We then compiled the dates for our possible trainings, at least for KNUST. Our partner institutions have also come out with their dates. And then we secured venues and made the necessary arrangement for catering. The next thing was, before each training, we will have to assign trainers to the modules. And this was done taking into account the interprofessional selection. So for all the modules, our facilitators came for all the, from all the professions that are concerned. Next slide. Yes, then there were other things we needed to do. We had to purchase the internet backup because of issues with internet connectivity. And this has been found to be very helpful. Then we will usually design a template prior to each training for registration of participants. And the packs, we have a small bag and then containing the manuals and other training materials. These are usually arranged together with the program for the date. Then a day prior to the training, or at least very early in the morning of the training, we'll have to go and arrange the venue into the workshop format that we want. Now, when the students arrive, or the participants arrive, we get their various professional categories, and then we usually place them into groups involving all the categories. So that will give us the interprofessional seating arrangement. Then each training, except the TOT, the trainer of trainers, we usually start with signing up and then the pre-test. This takes a lot of time, but I think we'll get there. Next slide. What have we done so far? So far, we've organized 3 trainings, and we've trained a total of 165 participants, comprising 27 trainer of trainers, and these came from various categories. Okay, we had laboratory personnel were 2, nurses were 4, midwives were 3, physician assistants were 6, pharmacists were 5, doctors were 6, and then we had a counselor, making a total of 27. Then the students, our first batch of students, were aiming to train 100, but 80 came for the training on the first day. And then the next training that we had was for staff, people who are already working at the PEPFAR sites. And these were supposed to be 60 in number, but 58 turn up. And they also had various categories. Laboratory technicians were 5, nurses were 17, midwives were 12, physician assistants were 6, pharmacists were 9, doctors were 7, and then there were 2 others, counselors and community educators. Okay, so far this is what we've done. Next slide, please. Now, we've had 3 different sets of training. So for lack of time, I just want to discuss how we did the allocation of modules and the students for our student module, because this is a bit challenging. What we are doing for the students is that we run simultaneous training sessions into groups of 50. Okay, so usually the students in each room, you have about 50 students in each room, and then they'll sit in groups of 6 to 9. And the sequence of the presentation, for instance, in day 1, for the student training that we had in room 1, the modules, this was the order of the presentation, module 1, 3, 4, and 17, and then we sort of had the reverse in the other room, so that the same presenter is able to shuttle between the two rooms. Okay, and you have the schedule from day 2 also presented. Next slide. Okay, so each module was delivered by the same facilitator in both rooms. But for each module, we allocated 2 facilitators, and then they decide who present, taking into account the interprofessional nature of it. Only about ones that you had 2 different presenters for the same module, but likely most of them is the same presenter that presents in both rooms. And as I mentioned earlier, the facilitators, they came from different professional categories. Now, what we also did, besides the presenters, you also had a set of facilitators who were moving around from among the participants. So for the purpose of this presentation, day 1, we had set A and B. Set A was for room, the first room, and set B for the second room. So the following day, day 2, they swapped. So set A went to room 2, and then set B went to 1. Now, what the facilitators will do in the course of the training is that we move from table to table as per activity. So maybe you sit with a group, after about 2 or 3 activities, you move to the next table, and so on and so forth. So this is how the facilitators rotated around the participants or around the tables during the course of the training. Next slide. Okay, what do we have left to do? So for KNUST students, we have 2 training sessions left. We are aiming to train, the remaining students are about 213, and then you can see the dates over there for January and February. Let me mention that our student trainings are only on Saturdays, so that's why you have those dates. So you do it, you start on one Saturday and finish the following Saturday. Now for Confanoche, we are having our first training for interns tomorrow, and this is meant to be 5 training sessions, and we aim to train 320 interns. And you can see the dates on the right-hand side. For our partner institution, which is Presbyterian University College, there we'll be doing the training together with the interns from the hospital. All together, we will have about 3 training sessions, and we aim to train about 250 interns. You can see the dates also on the right. Next slide. So what went well, or what are the recommendations for success? I can say that we initially had a lot of prior planning and then meeting and thinking through, particularly where we had to do this simultaneous thing and then looking at what would suit the students best and not to interrupt with their lecture schedule. So that took a lot of thinking through and discussions. I think one of the good comments we've been having from our participants is the spacious training rooms and venues. They also comment nicely about the food and then the snacks that they have during training. And I think it's important, particularly for the students. And in each of the groups, whether participants or facilitators, we ensure that we have an interprofessional representation in all side groups. Now, the other thing that I want to emphasize is that we allow time for group and plenary discussions. Let me here emphasize that if you look at the Stripe models, most of them really did not allow enough time for discussions. But as you present, were inevitable, and it sort of opens up and then let people understand the concepts better. So most of the modules are timed, but you don't seem to have discussion. And we have adopted a strategy where, we let 1 or 2 groups report, then we can, the facilitator, take it from there and then expatiate on the issues. Next slide, please. Challenges and any tips to overcome them. So the first key challenge, maybe I decided to leave out the finance bit because I think University of California has said, yes, we can mention our challenges, but there's nothing you can do about the payment structure. So let's go to pre-test. The pre-test took a lot of time, particularly the issue of signing up. And I think the key reason here is that the signing up looks much simpler on the laptop than on the phone. And people have different kinds of phones, so it's quite difficult, but we get to get it done. So what did we have to do? In some subsequent trainings, what we try to do is that we send a link to the students, because we usually have group leaders prior to, so that they can do the sign up. At least those that can do it during the training. We just have fewer people doing the sign up. Then they can do the pre-test. Other strategies were to start the training a bit earlier. And in the end, we had to do a PowerPoint presentation just to demonstrate to people where you can get the necessary icons on the phone. And that appeared to be a bit helpful. So we'll try it subsequently and see how they're able to pick up. Now, the other challenge we had, as I said, because of the discussion component, was that modules took longer than anticipated. So in some instances, we just had to curtail some of the discussions, though however interesting they were. Now the program sometimes, particularly for the first day, because of the issue of signing up, you may have the program running very late into the day. So under those circumstances, we have to apologize profusely to the participants. But subsequently, the timing will improve in the following day or the subsequent session. So I think that when they see they are gaining time, at least they are much happier with that. And they do understand that the delays in the first day was most likely due to the signing up. So we are hoping or looking forward to see shorter ways or better ways of signing up quickly so that we can go ahead with the rules. Next slide. Some participant codes. I'm happy to be part of this training workshop. I have really learned a lot. It will help me and my patients. This was from one student. And then another also said, I am happy I did not miss this opportunity. I have learned. And it's so interesting learning together with all team members. He was particularly excited because for the first time, or one of the few rare occasions, he got to meet all the people, the team members he's likely to work with in a typical clinic setting. And this was the experience that most of them had. And they were very excited about it, I must say. I think the rest are pictures that you can, we just go quickly. So this is after a meeting in one of our partner institutions. Next. A student training session, so you can see them sitting in groups and you can see the facilitators. And I mean, it's quite spacious here. Next slide. Another student training session, you can see very spacious. Next. Okay, so this was for our PEPFAR staff from PEPFAR facilities, and this was a residential hotel training. That is, people were housed in there. I mean, they were accommodated in the hotel, and then we had the training. So the setting is a bit different. I think the next picture is also a similar setting. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful to understand your setup, how you divided facilitators and students, and then to know what went well and some of the challenges that you had to overcome. We do have a couple questions. So first from Hoppy, which professions were the interns?
Sorry?
The interns that took the training, what professions did they come from?
Oh, the interns, we will start their training tomorrow, but it cuts across all Confanoche. So we have house officers, that's medical. We also have house officers, dental. We have nurses and midwives. We have laboratory interns, and we have pharmacists. Okay. So for Confanoche, but when we go to our partner site, they will have in addition physician assistants. We don't have some at Confanoche at the time. So these are the categories of interns.
Wonderful, thank you. And then the other question comes from Dr. David. He says, I have heard from several sites about large numbers of students in a group, but a known useful guidance for case-based education is a small class size. And in this case, not more than 20. How effective was contribution from the students in such large classes? So I know that you guys broke out into groups of 6 to 9 students, but overall, it sounded like in total there were 50 in a room. So how did that work for you?
Oh, it was very effective. I don't think that because the discussions are based on the groups that you have, and it's not necessarily the entire class. And once it's spacious and the presenter is good, I didn't see much difficulty with it. In as much as we would have wished that we have fewer, but the other thing is also we are looking at the constraints, and we have very ambitious numbers, and this was the only way to go. But all in all, I think they appreciated it, and that also passed across the sort of contributions you would have. But it was very effective. I don't think that numbers are an issue.
That's great. And just to make sure I'm doing my math correctly, I think you said there were two facilitators per module, and then 1 to 2 support facilitators. So does that mean there's about 3 to 4 facilitators in every room?
Yes, what you do is that you have the main presenter, and then you may have more facilitators. Each table will have about 1. So for instance, if we had 5 tables, you would have, each table will have a facilitator, and then we now rotate around. So in each room, you will have more than 5 facilitators. So that's how we organize that.
Oh, wonderful. So yeah, so that does combat the large total size, but when you break it down, you're still having a very small facilitator to student ratio.
Yes. Each group, each table had at least 1 facilitator besides the one that was presenting. So that's what I'm saying. I think we're fine with that.
That's wonderful to hear. Are there any other questions for either of our presenters? I guess I will pause. Please we welcome your questions, and we can return back to them. But I would like to offer Dr. Gooseby an opportunity to provide any comments or opinions or what he's heard. Dr. Gooseby, you are on mute now, but if you would like, there you go.
There you go. Okay. Hi, you guys. Thanks for the presentations. It's gratifying to see the specifics of what you're doing in each of your locations. Each of the presentations made me wonder about the degree to which you feel this mechanism with the trainings is actually beginning to change the concept of a team effort in the actual clinic site hospital setting. Are you feeling that this is beginning to move the self-perception of each of the respective professions to appreciate an enhanced role that they may or may not be able to play, as is identified and facilitated by the training? I'm just trying to get more of your gut reaction to, is this moving the agenda toward a team effort truly, or do you think we're more at the beginning of that self-perception?
So in KNUST, this is Veronica. In KNUST, from one of our training at the PEFA site, one of the participants reported that she was almost getting frustrated with the delays that and the difficulties that come with the care, and was almost going to give up because sometimes delays come from certain professionals or certain ends that you do not expect. But with this training and with the involvement of everybody, now that everybody understands his or her role and what we can do together to improve care, she has received much more energy to continue. Yes, so we would report that, yes, the training is making a great impact. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do you think, are there kind of epiphanies that you've come to in your training efforts that that you think will facilitate taking this to scale more, so covering more clinics out of your main institutions to secondary and tertiary type settings that are not maybe mainstream training sites.
Yes, from the
Yes.
responses that we receive from some of our participants, especially when they ask which areas which institutions are we covering, and ask whether we are going to reach others. And from the enthusiasm that we see from their approach to the training setting and the training itself, we see that if it is scaled up, it will be very helpful.
You know what I'm curious about is, are there approaches that you're becoming aware of that really do allow this effort to extend to, not just capitals, but also distant sites? And what are your thoughts about this platform with the Stripe effort being strong enough, or a platform on which a broader agenda other than HIV, moving into non-communicable diseases as you march toward a universal health coverage delivery system? Is this a platform that you think you can take advantage of, or do you think it would have to be modified significantly?
Yes, it is. In fact, we spoke to participants at random after the training to ask their views about using interprofessional education to reach out to the care of other diseases in general. And it received a very positive response. We also know that once we are a team of people who will take care of the patients, it is very helpful when this team is brought together and little hinges are, attention are drawn to the hinges that come with care provision. We know, for example, with maternal mortality and with non-communicable diseases, that some of the difficulties we have in our settings here is with delays that comes with the health system itself that can easily be dealt with. And so platforms like this will be very helpful.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think that is a very important question. And I do think that this is really scalable to other diseases other than HIV. And some of the modules already could be used with very minimal change. For example, the one on health systems. You could use it in with any other stock out of maybe insulin when you have diabetes or hypertensive drugs. So I think this is really scalable to other diseases, some cases with minimal change, but of course some other modules would need to be, one would need to come up with the modules that fit conditions. But also another observation is that even other institutions and countries that did not receive the grant or award are actually requesting to use these modules using their own funding, and that shows that there's a lot of interest in this, and so it is scalable. And also reaching out to clinics outside the capitals. For example, for the Uganda award, the Makerere award, already we are working with the universities that are not in the capital. So those are already being reached on this grant of Makerere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the great discussion. There was one final question on signatures on the certificates. Yes, they will have signatures, and those get populated once the student goes in to see their scores and hits the download button.
So just to clarification, so all the certificates we've had so far, at least up to last Thursday, did not have any signatures, and even the institutions were not. So what happens to those who have already received these certificates? Are they going to be, should I say, updated or? Because they were happy to have those certificates, but worried that they were not signed, and then their institutions were not stated.
Hi, Edward, this is Jess. It sounds like they had access to the beta testing site, which I'm sorry, that shouldn't have been available to those students. We will be sure that they have a link to the final certificates. I'll work with our programmers to make certain of that, which will include their name and the institution and the signatures. And we can just always resend that in an email to them.
Okay, cool.
And also, Jess, correct me if I'm wrong, but once that web page is available with the results, they will be able to go directly to that page to see their results and see their certificates. But right now, we don't have that page publicly available, but it's coming.
Exactly. That's. I just had a screenshot of the beta page. But that will be once it goes live, when they sign in using their ID, they will have access to that page and can go back. That's correct.
Just a little point. A few of the ones that had scores, what they noticed was that the scores, the pre and then the post test scores were the same. So for instance, if you had 58 pre, then after the post-test, they got the same score for a number of them. But I'm sure you are correct in that. Yeah.
Again, I think that they had access to the beta site. So I will make sure that, the team is correcting that as it goes live. And apologies for the confusion.
And you can continue to follow up with us until we have that corrected. Okay, so we did get positive responses on people being available December 17th. So we will have that call. Jess will be back to share the dashboard. And then we will do some kind of fun activity to wrap up the year and kind of recalling our progress so far, which has been really exciting. So thank you, everyone. And thanks again to Dr. David, Dr. Edward, and Dr. Veronica.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mike and Ambassador. Thanks so much, other colleagues.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Same to you all.
Thanks so much.
No, I've left. I'm just leaving meeting.